Hi everyone, this video is my run on the World of Illusions Ultimate Bahamut Lufenia fight, and specifically this video is for the TCC challenge. I will be including a timestamp in the video description in case you are interested in specific sections of the fight, and I will also be reviewing the fight overview and the party setup that I used before heading into the battle. So just quickly on what the requirements of the TCC challenge is this time. There is no extreme version of the challenge this time because the fight is actually quite tricky without kuja as it is. There aren't many restrictions, so kuja is banned for this challenge, and Jack is also banned for this challenge. Having said that, any friend unit is allowed, and you can actually use kuja friend unit if you need to, and in fact it is very difficult to complete the fight without at least using kuja as a support unit, mainly due to the mechanics surrounding the Lufenia orb. Beyond that, no burst mode is allowed. You can equip burst weapon, but you cannot enter the actual burst mode itself. So there aren't a lot of restrictions relatively compared to the usual TCC challenges, but that's because the fight itself is already very difficult without kuja and without the proper units. And I will go through a little bit about the mechanics of the fight and the party setup that I used before heading into the actual battle. So with that said, let's move on to the fight overview. See you there. So coming to this fight, without the use of kuja, it is actually quite difficult here, and there are a few things that makes this fight quite tricky. So first of all, Lufenia Neo Bahamut resists melee and range, and so you need to use magic type attackers, or another option is to incorporate some form of enchant or imperialist in your party. The issue really is that you need some form of holy attack or holy enchant and imperial, because Neo Bahamut has the Lufenia orb, and the orb appears two times. Firstly, it comes out at the start of the battle, and Bahamut starts off with the orb at 20 count. However, Bahamut always gets the first turn, and he will always use the first turn to summon the dragon stars. So therefore, after that, the count will drop to 18. And therefore, you actually need to burst down Neo Bahamut to 79% health before the count reaches to 0 to make the orb disappear. In this fight, you really do not want to let the orb count down to 0 because there's not many ways to mitigate the orb countdown attack, because the orb countdown attack will remove all your buffs, all Bahamut's debuffs, including frame 1s, and will unleash a massive brave into HP attack. Even if you somehow survive this attack, the Giga Flare Plus also batteries Bahamut after that, and he usually gets a turn to immediately use a massive HP attack again to kill off whoever is left. So the strategy going into this fight is you want to avoid the countdown at all costs, which means you need to bring heavy DPS to be able to bring Bahamut down to 79% before the orb counts down to 0. There aren't any ways to increase the count other than doing holy damage, and doing holy damage only increases the count by 1. So slowly but surely the orb will tick down. What makes this fight even more challenging is that once Bahamut falls down to 49% health, the orb will reappear at a 20 count again, and will not disappear until Bahamut is dead, which means that within that 20 count you need to deplete Bahamut from 49% to 0%, which is quite difficult considering kuja is banned. Looking at the roster of characters, there aren't many holy damage dealers left, and there aren't many units that can actually enchant holy to the party other than kuja, which is banned, hence why this fight is so difficult. There are some holy damage dealers, for example, Paladin Pecil is notable because all his attacks deal holy damage, and Paladin Pecil does have his additional ability that will enchant the party with holy attack. However, it's quite limited because he only has 2 uses of his AA, and it only lasts for 5 turns, so it is very precious. Other holy attackers are somewhat outdated. For example, there's Yuri and there's Sabin. However, their DPS is really outdated at this point of the time. And even if you bring them in, they only deal holy damage on their own, and they do not actually enchant the rest of your party with holy damage. So you really need to think about heavy DPS in order to not only meet the turn requirement but to kill Bahamut before the orc counts down to 0. To make things more challenging, of course, at 79% and 49% health, Neo Bahamut will cleanse all its debuffs and will resummon the Dragon Stars automatically at that point, even if you are inside summon mode. And below 50% health, any Dragon Stars it summons are the Dragon Star Plus version, which has more HP and has an innate HP resist ability, so making them more difficult to kill off. And on top of this, at the Lufenia fight, at both the 79% and 49% health, the next AoE attack Bahamut does will always be Mega Flare. And at 79% and 49%, Bahamut also inflicts HP poison. So depending on the turn order, what normally happens is that at that point in time, at the 79 and 49% health, your characters will be hurt by HP poison. Bahamut will also continue to hurt them with Mega Flare. And if you're unlucky enough, if Bahamut gets a full recast bar, it will then use Giga Flare. So at those points of time, you can expect very heavy HP damage, and so you need some form of burst healing or ways to mitigate those HP damage, which is already quite difficult to fit in your party, considering that you need to bring heavy DPS in order to kill Bahamut before the orc counts down. So coming to the party setup that I used, first of all, without the use of Kuja, I decided to use Paladin Pecil, because Paladin Pecil can heal through his S2, and of course all his attacks are holy, but most importantly, Paladin Pecil has holy enchant to the entire party through his additional ability, which is quite precious and buys you the crucial few turns that you need to kill off Bahamut. And you will see in this fight it is very close, and I made really full use of Paladin Pecil's additional ability here. Now, other than Paladin Pecil, I decided to bring in Arciela, and there's a few reasons for this. Although Arciela is a bit lacking in damage, she acts as my safety net for when the Dragon Stars are out, because she can inflict HP attack disable. So as long as Arciela gets a turn before the Dragon Stars and she lets off her Dissension skill, you pretty much have a lot of room to kill the Dragon Stars before they use self-destruct. If you don't bring in Arciela, you need to have other forms of burst damage, because when the Dragon Stars use self-destruct, it is essentially a run-ender as well, because not only does it deal massive AoE HP attack, it also removes all your buffs, including frame buffs, and if both Dragon Stars use self-destruct back to back, you will likely die from it. So the aim of the game is to kill the Dragon Stars or disable them before they use self-destruct. And so Arciela fits that niche. She also supplements Paladin Pecil in terms of healing, because she heals through both her S1 and her EX. So with both Arciela and Paladin Pecil being able to heal, I'm pretty much set during the 79% and 49% mark of the fight, where when all characters are inflicted with HP poison, Mega Flare, Giga Flare is incoming. As for the third party member, like I mentioned, you really need strong DPS, and ideally you want to bring in a magic DPS, because Neo Bahamut is resistant to physical and range, and you don't have, if you bring in Paladin Pecil and Arciela, you don't have any other form of enchant and imperil outside of Paladin Pecil's AA. So the way to go is through a magic DPS of some sort. Initially I brought in Vivi, however the issue is that all of Vivi's attacks are fire and dark element, which means that when Paladin Pecil uses his AA, or when you bring in the support Kuja to enchant the party with holy, VV does not benefit from this because VV will continue to do fire and dark base attacks, which means that the VV will actually contribute to the orb ticking down each time he gets a turn. I've tried VV a few times, but I couldn't manage to kill Bahamut before the orb ticked down. The closest I got was to 4%. So because of that, I decided to bring in Emperor instead. The good thing about Emperor is that all of his attacks are done elemental, so he benefits from Holy Enchant. And interestingly enough, if you use Emperor's EX on Bahamut and inflict all the 3 traps on Bahamut, if Holy Enchant is still up when the traps tick down, each trap will also increase the count by 1. So if you use Emperor's EX and all 3 traps trigger on new Bahamut, the count will actually go up by 3, which is quite crucial. The other thing I found about the Emperor compared to VV is Emperor also inflicts a speed down debuff, which is actually quite precious here. It actually gives you quite a lot of additional room in between each Giga Flare cast and helped me to deal the damage I need before the next set of Dragon Stars came up. And I find that with the Emperor, I had to deal with less Dragon Stars compared to VV just because Neo Bahamut is inflicted with speed down. You do have to be careful though, because Neo Bahamut can cleanse its debuffs, including Flame once each time it uses Giga Flare, and when it reaches 79, 49 and 29% health. So if Emperor's EX is up and when Neo Bahamut is about to use Giga Flare, or when it's about to reach 79, 49 or 29% health, you want to hold off on his EX until Bahamut has passed those triggers, and then only you inflict the traps. Doing this will help prevent Bahamut from cleansing the traps from itself. In terms of summon, I was thinking of using Odin summon, but my strategy actually relies on summoning and bringing in the Kuja support at the end of the fight. Kuja support will actually enchant the entire party with Holy through Kuja's LD skill already. So because of that, you don't really need you don't really need Alexander summon here, sorry. So my summon of choice is actually Odin rather than Alexander, because you will receive frequent HP attacks in the party. You will most definitely trigger Odin's 30% attack blessing, which helps to contribute to the DPS that you can do. And help you to get those additional bits of damage in onto Bahamut before the orb counts down to 0. And as for friend support, goes without saying, you really do need to use Kuja friend support. I'm not sure if it's even possible to complete the fight without a Kuja friend support. The Holy Enchant is very valuable. My entire party is built up completely in terms of summon and character boards. Both Emperor and only Emperor has the LD, and all characters have refined spheres put into them. Other options other than Emperor, one great option here in terms of magic DPS will actually be Struggle if you manage to pull Struggle's kit, because Struggle does insane AoE damage and can quickly burst down the Dragon Stars, and Struggle can also contribute to delaying Bahamut by breaking Bahamut when it's alone. So if you have Struggle, he should work very well also in place of the Emperor. Okay, so let's move into the battle. See you there. Okay, so starting off the fight, you actually really want to reset the wave until Paladin Cecil moves first. And the reason for that is that I always start off the fight using Paladin Cecil's AA, because I find that I really need the Holy Enchant to the party in order to get enough room to damage Bahamut down to 79% before the orb ticks down at the start. And if Paladin Cecil gets his turn first, you get the additional benefit of Arciela and Emperor hitting Bahamut for holy damage during their first turns, which actually is quite precious. So, long story short, if you are using Paladin Cecil, the optimal way is to reset until Paladin Cecil moves first. So from the 100% to 79% health, it's sort of like a burst phase, and you do need to try to pile on the damage as quickly as possible. So I start off with Emperor immediately using his LD to get the HP plus attack. And with Arciela, it's very important to use her free skill to use Dissension so that you will delay the Dragon Stars from hurting any character, and it will give you the room to kill them before they actually get to do anything. Importantly, both Paladin Cecil's Luminous Blast and Arciela's Darkest Hour does 20% splash damage, so if the Dragon Stars are nearly dead, you can use those attacks to finish them off through splash attack. Before HP attack disable finishes, you should kill off the Dragon Stars, and I used Emperor's second skill S2 to kill them off through the AoE attack. So this brings Bahamut to the weakened state, and because Emperor's LD has inflicted speed down debuff, you can see on the turn order that there is quite a lot of room that you get before Bahamut gets its next turn. And this is actually quite crucial for you to not only DPS, but to prevent the orb from counting down too much, because each time Bahamut takes a turn, the orb ticks down by 2. Okay, so Giga Flare is incoming. The interesting about Giga Flare is that even if it breaks all your characters, Giga Flare won't actually deal too much damage. If any characters are broken, Giga Flare only does about 50 to 60% of your health. So as long as you remain topped up, you don't have to worry about dying from Giga Flare. So you can see here, I was at full HP and I took quite a bit of damage from Giga Flare, but that's okay because both Arciela and Paladin Cecil can heal after that. It's important to try as much as possible to time Emperor's EX so that it's ready to be used when the Dragon Stars are up, because obviously the traps will help you kill the Dragon Stars significantly faster when they are up. The other thing also is that if you use it before Bahamut uses Giga Flare will actually cleanse all the traps and you will lose out on a lot of DPS that way. So do not use EX until after Bahamut has used Giga Flare. And with the cast of the EX, it also brought Bahamut down to less than 80% health, and therefore after this it uses Dragon Stars Revelation and the orb goes away. The other thing that you should try to time also is to bring Bahamut to 79% health when the Dragon Stars are up, because then it won't resummon the Dragon Stars because they are already up. Alternatively also, you can actually try to time so that he brings the Dragon Stars at 79% health and then uses Giga Flare while the Dragon Stars are up. because then also the Giga Flare will not summon the Dragon Stars because they are already up. At the 79% health, it is a little bit dangerous because all your characters will be inflicted with HP poison, and Bahamut's next all attack will be Mega Flare, which will also deal HP damage. So at the 79% health when you're inflicted with HP poison, you want to try to keep yourself topped up in health through Paladin Pecil and Arciela as much as possible. So this is the time when you should be using Paladin Pecil's Holy Flame attack or Arciela's Ascension skill if you need to. Once you are topped off and the HP poison goes away, you then enter what I like to call the honeymoon phase of the fight, because from 79% to 49% health, the Lufenia orb isn't in play, and so long as you quickly heal yourself up from the HP poison, during the honeymoon phase, my strategy is to actually try to be a bit more conservative on skill users. So I tended to use more of Luminous Blast and Darkest Hour on Paladin Pecil and Arciela respectively. So here you can see I ate the Mega Flare attack, dealt some damage, and I still have 2 more turns, 2 more Bahamut turns until Giga Flare comes, so there's a lot of room. So I continued my attack using Paladin Pecil and Arciela's just generic HP attacks to contribute to damage. And with Emperor, I try to also be a little bit conservative with skill users. On hindsight, looking back at this, you don't really need to be that conservative because I ended up the fight with quite a few ability users left. However, there are some skills that you should try to save. For example, you need to save at least a few of Paladin Pecil's Holy Flame to heal during the 49% health. And very importantly, at least a few of Arciela's Dissension, so that you can abuse HP attack disable at the later parts of the fight. With the Emperor, his LD will run out here, and my opinion is that you should not use his LD a second time until Bahamut is very close to 49% health, so that you can prioritize using the LD when you need it the most. So Giga Flare and Dragon Stars are incoming. If you find you need the additional room, you can use Arciela's HP attack disable to delay Giga Flare and give you the room to heal yourself up. Another thing worth noting is that if Bahamut is near 49% health, it might be worth it to delay Giga Flare until he reaches 49%. However, now since that Bahamut is at 63% health, I decided to let the Dragon Stars come off because I felt comfortable tanking them, and I do have the AoE attacks to kill them off again. So as long as Arciela gets a turn before the Dragon Stars do, just use her Dissension skill and you'll inflict HP attack disable, and you'll get 3 turns until they even get to do any HP attack, which gives you more than enough room to kill them off. Okay, so this round of Dragon Stars is over. At this point, Bahamut is very close to 49% health, and this is where you need to really think about preparing for the next phase of the fight. So because Bahamut is at 55% and very close to the 49% mark, this is when I use Emperor's LD so that I get his LD buff in preparation for the next Lufenia orb. I also plan to use everyone's AA. Here I made a mistake. I should be using Arciela's AA first before going to her attack. And the reason why you want to use everyone's AA before 49% is because the using additional ability takes a turn, even though it's a free turn, and will actually cause the orb to tick down. So if you use the additional ability when the orb is up, you are essentially wasting one precious count of the orb. So because of that, you should be using everyone's AA before the 49% mark. With Paladin Pecil, he has only one AA left, and you want to use this at the closest possible time to 49%, which is at the 50 to 51% mark as much as possible. Now Emperor's EX is ready, but like I said, at 49% health, Bahamut will cleanse all debuffs and resummon Dragon Stars, so I'm saving Emperor's EX for when the Dragon Stars are up. Okay, Bahamut is at 50% health, and this is where I use Paladin Pecil's AA in preparation for the Lufenia orb. And here is actually where I should be using Arciela's AA. I totally forgot about it, but I guess that's okay. So Arciela's EX brought Bahamut to 49%. It cleanses all debuffs and busts out the Lufenia orb and brings out the Dragon Stars Plus. So at this point in time, the Giga Flare is also about to come. So you want to try to quickly reapply all the debuffs on New Bahamut. And with Arciela, of course, using her Dissension to delay HP attacks. This is also the time when you'll be hit with HP poison, and Bahamut will use Mega Flare next. However, using HP attack disable buys you the room you need to heal. And I've been saving Emperor's EX, so this is really the best time to use to quickly bring down the Dragon Stars Plus. The good thing also is that because Paladin Pecil has enchanted the party of Holy, each time the orb, the trap ticks off, increases the count by 3, which is really quite significant. So here you can see that the count remains at 20, even though turns have gone, and that's because the traps keep increasing the counter on the orb. From here on in, you really want to be spamming skills with Emperor as much as possible, because you want to try to get to his EX as quickly as possible so that you can reapply all 3 traps again, and that will help you to increase the orb count as well when they trigger. With Paladin Pecil, you also want to go crazy on his skill users, because I will be swapping him out for the Kuja support once his AA is over. So the timing is that I use the AA right before the Lufenia orb comes up. When the AA goes away, I should still have enough turns. And the goal here from 49% health is to try to bring Bahamut down to 29% health before the orb ticks down to 0. Because at 29% health, he will resummon all the Dragon Stars again. I have no idea why, but for some reason, when Bahamut enters weakened state at a full recast bar, it will deplete its entire recast bar, which is actually quite interesting mechanic. I think here, a better optimal play here will be to use Arciela's Dissension to inflict HP attack disable, because Bahamut's next attack is going to be Mega Flare, and looking back at this, it may be a viable strategy to delay Bahamut all the way down to 29%, so that he will then resummon the Dragon Stars then. Okay, Paladin Celsius A has gone, and the orb will actually start ticking down pretty quickly now, so I'm trying to quickly bring Bahamut down to 29% health before the orb count gets too low. Another way you can consider is to bring the Kuja support in here, because Bahamut is quite far away from the next Giga Flare. However, I don't want to bring Kuja in because if you bring Kuja in and then Kuja brings Bahamut down to 29%, it will trigger the Dragon Stars. And you then have to waste precious Kuja's turns to burst down the Dragon Stars when you can actually bring in Kuja to focus damage on Bahamut when he's alone. .29% health, Dragon Stars Plus are up, and right at this point you want to bring them down as much as possible before the orb counter reaches 1, because that's when you want to bring in the friend Kuja. So go crazy on the AoE damage here as much as possible. Now I would have liked to kill off the Dragon Stars before I bring in Kuja, but You can see the count is at 1, so I don't have a choice here. So this is when I bring Paladin Cecile out for Kuja, pop summon to freeze the orb. With Kuja inside summon, you want the first turn to always be Seraphic Star. That's because Kuja's LD buff enchants the party with Holy, and will allow you to have every attack after this inside summon increase the count. So it's very precious. Essentially, you are recharging the orb to a higher count than what it was before inside the summon phase. During Arciela's and Emperor's turn, you also want to try to maximize AoE damage, because you want to try to kill off the Dragon Stars as fast as possible so that the Kuja support can use his LD to focus damage on Bahamut when he's alone. Each cast of Kuja's LD does about 300,000 damage if Bahamut is alone. So this is why I use one Seraphic Star at the start for the LD buff, but Kuja's second turn I use his EX because it does 100% AoE damage and will kill off the Dragon Stars. So I still have 2 more of Kuja's LD, and this is when you want to quickly use it to kill off Neo Bahamut. If Neo Bahamut is about to use Giga Flare, you want to use Arciela's HP attack disable. So this will prevent Bahamut from taking a turn, and will also prevent Bahamut from resummoning the Dragon Stars. And when Bahamut is alone, this is when you want to maximize Kuja's damage and use his LD. And you can see here, each cast of the LD subsequently does more than 300,000 damage. So the orb counts at 8, and once Kuja is gone, there's no way to increase the orb count. So this is where you don't want to be conservative at all. Use every bit of skill users you have left. Use some most damaging attacks to hopefully burst down Bahamut before the orb counter reaches down to 0. Once Kuja's LD is finished, between EX and Ultima Plus actually does more damage. So that's the attack you want to use with Kuja. So it's going to be very close. I'm at turn 95, the orb count is at 2. Luckily I managed to kill off with Paladin Cecile here. So that's it. As always, if you enjoyed the video, do leave a like, leave a comment or subscribe. It really helps a lot. Till then, I'll see you in the next Lufenia fight. Bye bye.